Hello, it's Katie. This is Halloween card number 7. And for some of this I've prepped a little bit just so the video wouldn't be so long and so I don't have to edit it either. But I forgot after using so much of the Mama Elephant and the My Favorite Things stamp sets that I actually had this little set from Lawn Fawn. It's called Trick or Treat. And because I saw the little candy corn on a card, and I knew I'd made something with that candy corn before. So I'm actually going to remake that card from, I made it last year. But it's going to involve paper piecing. So what I've already done is stamped him on some different colors. So what we'll be doing is using the white base because it'll go white, orange, and then yellow for the bottom. So in these ones you'll notice the little face isn't there. When I inked up the stamp, I used a little tiny alcohol swab and wiped off the eyes and the mouth, just very carefully, like with my fingernails, and then stamped it. So I got rid of the smile. So the yellow will be on the bottom. The orange, we're going to use the middle. It's going to be, we're not going to be using this bottom smile anyway, so I didn't worry about wiping that off. And then the white, we'll just end up leaving alone. So I have the card base here. It's a square, so it's going to be 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. I folded it in half, so that's 8 1/2 long. And then we'll work on the white part first before we stick it down to the black, because we're going to have the candy corn in kind of a banner, and it might run off the edge of the white. And so we'll figure out the white first before we stick everything down to the black. And then first I will stamp the Trick or Treat. It's going to be in the bottom left corner of the white here. Pick up a block here. And so for that sentiment, since I don't have to do anything with it, I'm going to use the VersaFine ink, which, again, if you're going to color anything with Copics or anything like that, you want to use probably the Memento ink. So I'm going to put the Trick or Treat in the bottom left corner here. Okay, so that's nice and crisp. Then we'll actually stamp out the banner of the candy corn on this paper, and then we're going to cover it up with the paper piecing. So I'm going to do some cutting for those. So the Memento is fine for this. We're just going to cover it up anyway. So I'll start with probably the middle where I want it to come out. And again, we'll be covering up the face with these yellow ones, so I don't have to worry about wiping off that face. So I can come out to here. And we'll create kind of a rounded banner. Okay. All right. And then I'll be using the Doris Baker's twine. I'm going to use the orange and white here to kind of have a little thing. We'll put a line of glue and stick that down and put 2 little knots at the end, or little bows, depending on which is easier. So we'll set that aside for now. So now we want to do our paper piecing, and that's all this is that it kind of comes in handy. So if you had a little person wearing an outfit, for example, on a stamp, and you wanted their shirt to be a pattern or like a little Hawaiian shirt or something like that, you could find a paper like this, or maybe even a miniature version of it. This is just an example of some scrap paper. You could stamp them onto this area, just make sure the shirt is in this area, and then cut out the shirt and put that on top of the other stamped image on like white paper, and then color in the rest of them or something, so they'd have a patterned shirt. So that's what paper piecing is, if you haven't heard of it. And I'll just be cutting out the bottoms for the yellow. And I'll try not to take too long on this part. And if you end up having dies, I don't know if there's a die set for this one, they may have come out with it, but normally a die is going to end up cutting a little halo around really any stamped image that does come with a die set. So it's going to have some white around it. So even if you did have a die to try and save yourself some cutting time, you'd probably still have to trim off that white halo. So in this case, it wouldn't really help, I guess you could say. And I think one of these ended up stamped just a little bit of the face. I didn't quite get all of it, so I stamped an extra one, and I only ended up needing the 5, so that's good. Oops. And you can do paper piecing with really anything. You can get very, very creative with it, which is why I like it a lot. I did an entire image once with paper piercing, so I stamped it a lot on different patterns, and it came out with just lots of different pattern paper. It's kind of making up the image instead of coloring in the rest and only paper piecing part of it, or whatever works for you. So okay, so I need one more bottom part there. And when you're cutting these out, you kind of have to decide if this makes sense. It's always a little hard to explain. Excuse me. On here, when you cut, you decide really if you're going to cut. I wonder if this will focus. Anyway, you decide if you're going to cut really below or above that line, because if you cut, for example, I'll cut this one out one way first. So I'll cut so that the top black line on that bottom portion is still there. But when I go to cut out my orange guys here, when I go to cut out the orange middle, that means I need to cut off that black line and just have cut above the line basically for the orange middle, or else they won't puzzle piece together properly. So it's just that little tiny slice of the paper where that black line is that will make a difference when you're trying to put it together. For the yellows, I'm just going to cut off the black line for the most part, and then on the orange one, I'll just leave it on. So I'll just make sure these ones, I'll take the black line off. So now it just looks a little more bare at the top. And it doesn't have that line there anymore. So that'll probably make it easier when you're trying to put it together. This one I accidentally rubbed off a little bit anyway of that black line when I was trying to get the little face off, so that's fine with me. So we'll stick those down, and I'll probably want to use some tweezers. So for this, what I'm going to do is probably put the glue on the paper directly. Let me zoom in a little bit for this, sorry for the wiggles. Okay, make sure I'm not filming sideways. I'll put the glue, I'm just using some glossy accents that have already hardened up. Hang on one sec. I always use a safety pin to unclog this. It never seems to fail that it will just clog right after I unclog it, so it doesn't clog for the video, of course. Alright, so then I'll just take this, and I probably don't need that much glue. I'll just pick some up with a scrap. And then I'll stick this part down. I'll let that dry a little bit before I go and cut it off the edge. And really you just want kind of, I just smooth around a thin layer, or just put really light dots. You really don't need that much glue. The more you have, the more it's going to squeeze out anyway, and we want to avoid that. So little dabs, or smear a really thin layer. And then we'll put that guy down, so we're covering up the face with that one, or with the yellow. Okay, so then we're going to be putting that one down. And then again, just putting the glue down here so I don't have to have that smear off onto my craft sheet there. So I'll glue that down and give it a second. I'll let those dry for just a second while I cut the orange middles. So this one now I know I don't need the bottoms for the orange. I can pre-cut these just so I can hold them a little easier while I'm cutting them. The top is going to stay white, so it doesn't really matter which line we cut on that one. But in this orange one, we're keeping that bottom black line. So that the bottom line is going to stay on this one. So I'll take tweezers and then drop it. Try that again. And we'll put some glue down for that one. And really even a tiny bit of glue in the middle would hold it in just fine. But if you want to secure that all around, then just make sure it's a thin layer. With the glossy accents, it's going to dry glossy. That is its feature. So if you smear any glue outward, it's going to be noticeable and shiny. So unless you cover it up with glossy accents later anyway, which might not be a bad idea actually for this card. I think I might do that. The idea is to cover something with this glue, which is also kind of accent glue, and then when it dries it looks like it's, you know, like a little window or something, so you've created kind of a clear glossy hard bubble. It's really good for like balloons, so if you have a little balloon on the card and you cover the whole surface of the balloon, it looks shiny. Things like that. So it can give a really cute accent to a card where you might otherwise not have an idea of something that's just missing from a card, but you want to add something. Like the Wink of Stella pen to add some glitter. Okay, so then we'll put a little bit of glue here. Okay, and then I have one last one. Pretty sure I had stamped enough of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where's my other middle? Is it this one? There it is. Thought he was missing. Alright, so we'll cut this one and then get that off the top there. And this is our, let's get the edge there, our last one. So again, this one's going to hang off the edge. I'll cut this, the orange off with the yellow, but we can get this stuck down. Probably use the tweezers on this one. Okay. So then, I'm trying to think if that would actually look, if that would look okay. Probably not, because it looks kind of funky there, so I think I'll trim them off. So just come over here, get rid of that, and that one. Okay, so then for this we can stick this down to the black base now. It's a very thin line border, but I think it looks good that way. Just to kind of have the black peek out, because our card base is going to be orange. So it's got a little accent of everything. Make sure that's covered there. And then center this on the black piece. Sometimes I have to stand up and do this so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. And this is actually, I'm not sure what the name of the paper is, but it almost looks like recycled paper, so that's actually just part of that. So it's from Paper Tray Ink, but it's not their white cardstock. It's got those flecks in it. But I think it looks really cute. So I like that a lot. And then I think this is going to end up being popped up on this card here. And I can actually do that now before I put the string on it, because it's going to be a little bit harder after I run a line of glue and put some string down to flip it over and put foam on it, for example. So I think I'll do that part first. So I have my foam tape roll. I still have some on my smaller roll, but I opened this one for card class on Sunday, and so it's already open. So I'll just kind of tear these off and make sure this is supported. Okay, and then just extra little piece right in there. I'll take these off. This is my friend's favorite part. She says I do it so fast, but I've been doing it a long time, so you get used to having to remove the foam tape stuff. So we'll center that on the card, so that's on the card raised up there, and it almost looks good by itself. But we want to give them a little string connecting, so I want to get my string ready. I don't need much for that one. I think I'll add little bows separately. Detail scissors don't want to cut this very well. Okay. Alright, so I'll just create kind of a line for the twine, and we'll just kind of lay that down as we go, and just let the glue kind of pick it up, but don't tug on it too hard so we don't pull it away. Okay. Then that's what I don't want to do. I can trim this off. Scissors do not want to cut this very well. I wish they were a little better. Come on, Cuttlebug. Cutter bee, not Cuttlebug. Okay. So we've got those parts. I wonder if another pair would be better. I don't know why they're not behaving. It's a little better. What is going on with these? They're awful. Maybe they're just meant for paper. Alright. So then I can take, just take a stream of it really, and you can tie a little bow while it's still on the line. Pull it to the size that you want, and then just kind of trim it off so it's still connected to my thing here. You can just create a bow that way. Maybe the trick is pulling it taut so it cuts the way you want it to. Then dab a dot of glue to hold it. Then you can put your bow down. And I would let this dry probably before you do anything else to the card other than the other bow. So I'll take another one. I'm just going to start from the right and kind of just do it like you're tying your shoelace. Make a bow out of it. Pull that tight, and then you can make it smaller with both ends. And then we'll pull that and get that cut. Okay. So then we have our other bow. This one's a little twisty. I don't know, I manage to do that sometimes. Somehow. Trying to untwist it. I don't think it wants to be untwisted. I don't really like that one. Let's try it again. Maybe the twine is just twisted for some reason. This one's a little better. Okay. So pull that taut and cut it. Try and pull it taut between your fingers here and cut it. Then I'll add a dab of glue up here to this end, and a little glob of it is fine. It's going to dry clear or glossy, but it's going to dry kind of under that dot, so that's okay. So I think for the video I'm going to leave it here. I actually can go ahead and add some Wink of Stella. I don't know, just because the bows are in the way, if I'll add glossy accents to the whole candy corn, like to make it shiny. I don't know if I'll be able to pull the bows out of the way. So I think I'll just do the Wink of Stella on the candy, just to give it some glitter. I may need to squeeze more out of this. And then I can just kind of sneak under the ribbon and get some glitter on there. A lot more glitter in that one. And get these coated. You can see when you squeeze a lot of it, you can see a lot of the silver glitter come out, especially when it's on top of the white. Okay, so we'll leave that with a glittery candy. Hopefully you can see that kind of shine okay. It almost looks like a layer of glossy accents in itself, but it's just the Wink of Stella pen. So that is the card, and I'm going to let these little bows dry and come back for Halloween card number 8. Thanks, bye.